Right, I've just finished sanding this 9.5 as a 6mm stringer. How can I make it look really good? Well, I think I'm going to do this. Something like this. Have a look at this. 24mm cedar stringer now with cedar and balsa tail block there, and cedar and balsa nose block there. This is not solid. This is an inlay that I've done. If you're interested in watching to see how I do it, keep watching. It's very light. There's only about 2 mils or 3 mils of timber actually in there. Probably a couple of 100 grams total. Doesn't make much difference to a longboard. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is cut some thin strips off this piece of western red cedar. It's just some shiplap, about 8mm thick. I'm going to cut 4 5mm thick strips on my table saw, and then I'm going to route out 2 grooves along next to the stringer and then inlay them with some glue, and it will appear like a solid stringer. Turns out beautifully. After that, I'll be doing some nose and tail blocks using cedar and balsa. If you're interested, keep watching. Ready to go. So I've got a piece of aluminium here that I use for doing lines, for checking things. The string is straight. Sometimes I get a stringer that can be 3 mils out, and you can't really do it with a stringer like this. So this one's really straight. I've measured this with a micrometer, and it's 9mm wide, and I've got a 7 and a bit millimeter router bit, so that gives me a mil or so that I can adjust. If you go too wide, it's not going to grab, but I'll show you how to sand it to grab it. You can measure from the edge of the router bit to the edge of the guide there, but I get it wrong sometimes. So what I've done is I've done it by eye, and I've done a practice cut here, and it just leaves some of the glue and a little bit of the foam on there, which is what you want, because you can sand it off later. If you have it too close, you're cutting into your stringer, which isn't the end of the world. If you had a router bit that's too wide, it's never going to grab. So a router bit that's a mil smaller than this, and you should be right. Take the aluminium down. I thought of other ways of doing it. I was thinking of pins through here, but anyway, this is about the 4th time I've done it. The first time I did it, it worked out perfectly. Second and third time, sometimes if you go a little bit wide, you have to fill it in with a little bit of Q-Sol maybe. Look, worst case scenario, if you are way out, you can always do a pin line along the edge of the stringer. But anyway, we'll see how this goes. Better put some earmuffs on. Not that I'm going deaf yet. Wouldn't you say? Here we go. Okay. So now they're cut out, I've actually dry fitted this one. So you do a dry fit first, and it just doesn't quite fit, which is perfect, because what's going to happen is I'm just going to sand along with a pop stick and some 180 at an angle. So I'm sanding it at that sort of angle. And what that does, enables you to push in the timber up against the foam, and the foam compresses and pushes back against the timber. So that's popped in really nicely. So just dry fit it along. Doesn't take much at an angle, and you sort of pull it in like that, and it's sitting in really nicely. So you can sand along here. Thinking that's going to go in nicely. I'm pulling against this way, pushing down. The tighter the better. Now when you get the glue on there, it'll slip in nicely. See, that's a bit tight, so this is why you do a dry fit first. That means you won't have any gaps, and it looks like you've done some precise work, which in the scheme of things I think you probably have. This bit's never a problem. The routing is the scary bit. As long as you've the route a bit smaller than the timber. Will not be a problem. That fits in nicely. See, I'm pulling that way the whole time. Still going with this, still fitting it nicely. That's a bit tight. I've never had the bits of timber break on me. I'm still fairly gentle with it, but it's pretty good. Okay, so that's in. That one fits. I'm ready to tape up. I'll do that in a moment. So they're pressed in, so I'm going to tape up right along against the edge, because you don't want glue getting on the foam, even though it's clear glue. Just keep it clean. Makes it easy if the timber's in there. It's annoying if you get the tape actually inside next to the timber, because it's really hard to pick out. So by doing this, you're not going to get that problem. that worked out beautifully. Mixed it very nicely. I'll do the other side. Okay, so I've got some interior exterior woodworking glue brand. This one sickens. I don't think it really matters. So I'm going to do this side first. So lift this out. I sort of pull against it rather than lift it straight up. Okay. You can be pretty generous with the glue that you put in. If you sanded a bit of a groove inside there, just fill it up with this. Excess will squeeze out, but you do want a nice wet coat in there. I think I'll do two sides at once. While I'm there, I might as well get glue into both. You'd think it was time consuming, but it's actually okay. Spilled a bit of glue on the blank there. I'll just wipe that off. Things that happen. Things that happen. Okay. I am organised. So nice. So there's a bit of a. So it's actually wet in there, you know. The blank will certainly soak it up, but we're going to be. This part's going to be done. This is the hardest part's over. That's just in the way. Keep the glue jar so I'm dropping on the link. So you float it. The glue actually lubricates the process, so it goes really nicely. Going well. Okay, so it's all pretty saturated. A bit more there. So yeah, that's why one of the reasons you have a bit sticking up so that you can actually pull against it and push in. After I've done this, I'm going to bed them home with a hammer. And you won't be able to see any gaps. Right, that one's in. Tap that with a hammer, go from the centre. Tap it off, come back here. Okay, I'll do the other one, but that's just wiped off most of the excess glue with a paper towel. I think I'm going to pull it off while it's still not fully hard, and it will come off really nicely. How good's that? Isn't that cool? I love it. I love timber. And it doesn't weigh much. You've probably got 2 or 3 mils in there, if that. Just like a thicker than a veneer, of course. And you've got enough to plane down when you get the stringer down. It's good. All right. I've had a brainwave, and this is what I was thinking about for a while, because the tape is really, it's not quite good. So what I've done with this aluminium strip, I've drilled in multiple holes with a 1.5mm drill bit. I countersunk it first. Then I've got brad nails, 18 gauge, so they're about 1mm by about 1.2, 25mm long. I've pushed them in various spots, and it's rock solid. So I'm going to route this one and see how it goes. I think this is the way to go now. We'll see. I've taken the stringer down and it's turned out really nice. I'm going to show you how I do it. Some people like planing, sanding. I'm going to use an angle grinder with a diamond blade on it, and I'll put the tape there so that once I start skimming the tape, I know that I've got to stop, and then after that either sand or plane it down. I'll just show you how it starts off. It works pretty well. I don't know if you can see here, but I've got it right down to the paper there. I do this side because I can see the light catches it nicely, so I'll go along this side and then I'll go along this way till it's pretty well down. Now I'll go and finish it off and show you what I do next. I've just taken down this one edge. I don't know if you can see here, but I've kept going till I just touched the paper. And so once the paper changes colour, you know you're down level with it. So it's a little bit patch there, I'm not going to worry about it. That's the original colour, so I haven't quite got it completely down. But you can see here where it's gone pale, I know that I've taken the paper down just a fraction. Don't actually go through it, of course, because this protects the board. But you'll find when you pull the tape off, it's gone really thin. And so all I need to do now is sand down or even just very finely plane it. I'll do the other edge now. Right, ran that down. It's a bit rough, but you can see that I've tried to just get a little bit of colour change there. So that means I've taken the paper down a bit. and it's just going to need either planing or sanding, depending on how you feel about planers or sanding blocks. That's 80 grit. It's working really nicely, or you can plane it down. The nice thing is the blade on this is the same width as the stringer, so you're not going to get that sort of cutting into your blend. So I always found planing fairly tedious. But it, either way, suit yourself. Ready for the next step. If you wanted to leave it like this and just have the stringer, then you'll need to block the ends here because there's a foam end. So you just need to trim that out, pop those in, and you'll have a nice solid timber end. But what I'm going to do, and I made these yesterday, very simple tail and nose block, balsa, about 30 mils wide, so it's going to get thickness there, and that's going to sit like that, and this one's going to sit over here in the middle. It's going to sit like that. Now, I love tail blocks and nose blocks. They make the board really strong because those dings that you get on the tail and on the nose, it just doesn't happen. The other thing is it just looks so good. Now, I'm not going to cut that straight off. That's the simplest way. You'd probably do that if you damage your tail. What I'm going to be doing is cutting either side of the stringer and cut out a section here for that to fit in. Very basic because it's just a square cut. I've done various angles. You can have a look up over here at other side that I've done. You can see I've used coloured resin in some. I've done others multiple laminations, and I just use the same wood glue that I do for there, interior, exterior. Sometimes I colour the resin to match the board. Sometimes it's resin that allows light to come through. It just looks really good. Anyway, I'm going to start cutting it and show you how I do that. So, I've drawn a line there, perfectly square to the stringer, and tail block's going to fit on there. Just overhangs just a fraction, so when you curve it you're going to get this nice hard timber on the end there. I use a pull saw, it's very fine toothed, or I used to use a hacksaw blade. All you need is a block of wood and line it up perfectly with the line, and by pushing against this the blade bends, and you're making sure that it's going to cut perfectly in line. That way. And then just cut along the inlay. Like that. and that's going to sit in there. Now I'm going to cut this in half on my table so it's nice and square. I made it so it's just big enough, but because we gain 25mm or 24mm there, there's going to be a nice bit of overhang there. Easy. Alright, now gluing on, I use a construction adhesive like Silly's Liquid Nails. I've used resin in the past, on it too slippy, too slow to go off. Use wood glue, again it's very slippy. This has a nice quick grip. Also the colour, if there's a bit of a gap there, is so much like the timber you don't see it. So it works really well. So I'm just going to put some of that on. That's what I need. There. Spread it out. Excess will come out. That's why I've got the tape there. And put a little bit on here. I like to do both surfaces. And push it on firmly, making sure you've got a little bit of timber above and below on both sides. I can feel the stringer there. Push out any excess, and you can see there that it grips straight away. Now, just a double surety. A bit of tension on that because this tape's nice and stretchy. And then I'll do the other side. And if you did find it slipping, you can just put a little pin into the side of the balsa there, and that'll stop it from sliding down if you're using a different sort of glue. But this stuff really grips. You can get a quick grab one too. So 24 hours and you can come back and start shaping it. I'm going to do the other end now. I'll show you the results later on. It's hardened up nicely. Scraped a bit of the excess off here. It's not completely hard, but hard enough to work on. It's really solid. I kept the bits I cut out, and I'm going to use those to lines up nicely with the existing foam. And this is what I'm going to cut around. You don't need to show how to shape it. I normally just cut those off with a saw, plane, electric planer, then sand it around and just shape it. What I did here at the end, the leftover bits, this is probably, I've got 3 of those in there, and so the impression will be it's going to look like a solid piece of timber. I just use resin, and that's all hard now. Did the same with the front. Yeah, I'll show you after I've shaped it. And now the finished product. It's turned out really well. Chris, the guy I made the board for, wanted a bright blue pen line, and you can see the lovely colour of the cedar inlay there. Goes down here to a nice tail block, a nose block I mean, and we've got the tail block down here. On the other side, it looks just as nice. Well worth the effort. Or you can go for something like this. Basically the same board, but this one's got some beautiful artwork done by Chantel Nambijinta Reynolds, First Nation artist. So great that we've inherited this style of art from our First Nation people. Yes. And on the other side, we've got the cloth there too. Adds a little bit more weight, but not much. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. More clips on Surf Alegria on YouTube. Cheers.